Hello, this is my video book review of a book that I just recently read called You Win in the Locker Room First. It's written by Mike Smith, who was the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, went to the Super Bowl, I believe, and John Gordon, who's a best-selling author, an inspirational, motivational speaker. The book was really good. I was surprised at how many things that seemed like they were common sense in the book that really I hadn't thought about as a coach. I think that the book gives a lot of information that you can easily apply to just about any team that you want to build. In my context, I'm a coach, so I would be using it for that, but a lot of the principles discussed in the book can also be applied to organizational teams or businesses, and so you can really use a lot of those principles that the authors have applied in the context of sports in other areas as well. I learned a lot from this book. It talks about the 7 C's to transform your team and prepare them for success, and also talks about a focus of the principles that don't necessarily affect on the field success. In other words, a lot of people think that wins and losses are the most important thing in sports and even in business, but really it's the principles and values that are focused on that then create those wins on the field. And so it kind of shifts the focus from on the field success to really transforming lives and having that off the field success in terms of focusing on principles and personal growth that will then in turn cause that on the field success to happen. So I learned so much reading this book that I actually created a presentation template that not only I can use, but other coaches of other teams can use. They can tailor it to their specific situation and possibly have a positive effect on their team culture and experience. So I kind of wanted to go through that today, this presentation that I made, to kind of talk about some of the things in the book that are discussed, not all of them, but some of them. I really wanted to just focus on a few to make kind of a shorter presentation. This presentation could be used as like a parent meeting at the beginning of the season. It can be used with your team so that you can create a shared understanding of team mission and values and things that you really want to focus on to kind of shift the focus of your season, especially if you are, it's kind of geared towards coaches that may be trying to change team culture. Maybe you're new, or maybe you've been there for a couple of years, but you really aren't seeing the changes or progress that you would like to see, and you've been working really hard on the field. So this is kind of geared towards coaches in those situations, so that you can kind of shift the focus to that off the field stuff that you can do to really transform lives and then ultimately see that on the field success. So I titled it Some Things Are More Important Than Wins and Losses, because really the goal of sports isn't to just win games on the field, it's to transform lives. And then in this presentation, we're going to talk about those 7 C's that are talked about in detail in chapters in the book. So the presentation can be geared towards players, coaches, parents, really anybody who wants to improve their situation. So in the presentation, I put some goals, right? By the end of it, if the concepts in the book are communicated clearly to the participants of the workshop, then by the end of it, they'll be able to do these three things. They should understand the principles that the team is going to focus on in the upcoming year, what's important to the team. They should know that. That should be something that they take away. The second thing, they should be able to create shared values that will be an important part of the team that year. Having the opportunity as a participant to share something that can be used that will create a shared value structure, a shared culture that you are a part of is very powerful in terms of overall buy-in from the participants. And so giving them an opportunity to do that is going to be very important. You can have coach-created or coach-led value systems and structures put in place, but if the players, parents, if they have no input, it's easier for them to not buy in because it may be something that they disagree with. So being flexible and giving the opportunity for the participants to add something to the structure that's in place is a very powerful tool for you. So that's a goal of this presentation. And then another goal would be to look at the big picture. So often, coaches, players, parents, we look at what's right in front of us. This season was disappointing. That game was disappointing, and our emotions are really tied into that. When we take the focus off of winning and losing on the field, or success and failure on the field, we take a step back and realize that there are values and principles that we can grow in each day. It kind of shifts the focus away from winning and losing and really helps us to be more emotionally stable as the season progresses. And so looking at the big picture, how can we grow each day? How can we focus on these principles? How can we get better and improve as a team and come together as a team is something that's very important. So that's a goal, to get them to look at the big picture, not just the daily ins and outs of success and failure. And so the 7 C's mentioned in the book, that the book really goes into detail on, are culture, contagious, consistent, communicate, connect, commitment, and care. When you think of all 7 at once, it seems like a lot, but when they're broken down into each specific area, they really do make sense. And this is kind of just an overview of the principles in the book. I didn't focus on all the areas that even stood out to me that I enjoyed for the interest of time. So culture, right? When you're creating a team culture, this is something that I really took away from this book. Creating a team mission and vision statement. And since my presentation is just a template, this is where you would put your team mission and vision statement. It goes here. And then this can be created by thinking of those values that are really, really important in the context of your team. This could depend on if you're a sports team, or if you're a business, or if you're, maybe a school structure organization. Your values, that these are things that you will not compromise on. These are things that you will communicate often. They will guide you as you go. This is what is going to shape your culture. Okay, and coaches can set these, but you can also have added input from participants as well, because they are also responsible for maintaining the culture that's created. So a shared culture can be really strong. So that's what would go on this slide. You would present this to your team so that everyone's on, or program so that everyone's on the same page, and then really, really stick to this throughout the season. Because so often, especially the book mentions, you have a clear vision, mission and vision, and you stray away from it over time due to various reasons. And so this is important to maintaining the culture of the program, revisiting it, recommunicating it, really sticking to your mission and vision. And then contagious is another C that's really important for creating a positive team culture. And then contagiousness can go both ways. It can be positive or negative, right? You've heard the statement, negativity spreads like cancer. It really does. One person complaining can really just spread exponentially and in a very fast pace. And so being contagious, we really want to focus on contagious positivity. And then one thing that wasn't mentioned in the book, but I added, smile. There's something that happens in your brain when you smile, no matter what emotions you're feeling. The physical act of smiling can actually release chemicals in your brain that can change your emotions. But something that is highlighted in the book, never complain. Some sort of team rule or consistently reminding coaches as well as players never to complain will help you to remain positive, and that positivity can be contagious. If we're always positive, if we're always reinforcing the fact that we shouldn't be complaining, even as coaches, this can be something that's powerful for the team. Consistency. The book this is a workshop, so there's going to be an activity in this part of the presentation for people to discuss in small groups what it means in the specific context of a team to be consistent. This is another opportunity for shared creation of a shared consistency value system for the team. But the book does talk about making an intentional effort to be consistent. And there are various things that it lists in the book that you can do. But consistency is huge. If you're up and down, you're not consistent with reinforcing the mission of your team and vision of your team, the values of your team, then there's an opportunity for failure for the team as a whole. Another big thing that's mentioned in the book, another C, is communicate. I think that it should be important to create an official team communication policy. Like as a coaching staff, this is our policy. If you have something to say, maybe we have an open door policy, maybe there's specific time set aside, scheduled time to communicate for players, coaches, administration, anyone involved. And really the book talks about a couple of big things. One, communicating for a purpose, right? Communicating to create connection between teammates, players, coaches, but also collaboration. If you have a goal of working with somebody, your communication habits are going to be different than if you're just communicating to communicate, because you know it's important. The purpose of why you're communicating is going to be very important. And then there are also enemies of communication that the book talks about. One major one being too busy to communicate. During the course of the season, things come up, people get busy, and it can be hard to keep communicating. I'm going to run out of time soon, so I'm going to try to speed this up. Connection. On the presentation here, I put a team connection survey. This is a way that players can take a survey to find ways in which they would love to connect with each other. Connection is super important throughout the course of the season, as mentioned in the book. Commitment to the team, sacrificing for the team is something that's mentioned in the book, super important. And caring. If you don't care and you don't show that you care, it's going to be a struggle for your team, as mentioned in the book. That's my book review. Thank you guys for watching.